Hello and what's up everyone, Thunderbob here, and I'm checking out some more Diablo 2 Resurrected tonight. This is a new level 99 character. This is a single player character that I've kind of edited together as a proof of concept for something that I want to try later on Battle.net, just to see if it can work in hell difficulty with kind of extreme levels of gear. Though this is actually not as ridiculous as some of the builds that I've put together in the past. This is a Ranger Paladin, specifically dealing fire damage is what I'm targeting here. I'm going to go through the basic build and the gear. The build is mostly based around weapons like Demon Machine that has both explosive arrows and piercing attack as a benefit. So whenever you shoot a bolt or arrow with this weapon, it explodes. And the nice thing about that is it carries forward any fire damage on you. That's fire damage from things like your holy fire. That's fire damage from charms. That's fire damage from things like Endariel's Visage here adds 17 to 45 fire damage. That's carried forward on that explosive bolt. And since it's piercing, every enemy it pierces causes an explosion. It's almost like having a fireball that pierces, and each time it hits a target, it causes another explosion. Now, the damage on it is not close to what Fireball can reach. This is definitely not, an S tier character, but I have found it's effective for certain things. So let's go through the gear. We got Demon Machine to enable the explosive arrow. Endariel Visage, I needed just a little bit of IAS to hit the breakpoint with this weapon. So this is letting us get to the maximum breakpoint according to the calculators I've looked at. Rising Sun, this is just for the 2 fire skills. That also adds a little bit more fire damage. You go with a lot of different options here. Rare Amulet, would be perfectly fine. Chains of Honor, I put this on mostly just to hit some decent resistance ratings. Like without it, I'm pretty poor right now. You could throw on Enigma for teleport, which would be really nice. I think I needed a little bit more survivability. That's why I'm wearing this. If I didn't have Endariel's on, I would have, maxed fire resistance as well. Mage Fist I have for that +1 to fire skill, which does apply to Holy Shock. You got 2 Bolkathos wedding bands on for the plus skill, and then some lifesteal just so I can have some incoming lifesteal. Razortail, this is very important because while this adds pierce, it's not 100%. If memory serves me right, this gives 60%. And the belt gives 30%, or is it backwards? Together, these give you like 99% piercing rate. So these 2 items, very beneficial to have together. Then I got Gore Riders on. I was kind of debating between like Inferno Stride, which gives you a little bit more fire damage, or like War Travelers or something. Gore Riders is nice because you get that Crushing Blow, Deadly Strike, Open Wounds. Those things don't apply to the explosion. But you do send a bolt out, and my understanding is that bolt does work with these other stats. That bolt also takes damage from things like Dream. So I considered using Dream, and this would add like 1,000 or so average lightning damage. But I've had some weird things where it seems to be like cycling on and off when I've got multiple auras on. I don't know if this is a new bug or what, but like you see it there, and anytime like I move stuff around, I was just having issues where the auras were turning on and off randomly. The damage seemed to be a little buggy, so I'm not running it. And it only adds about 1,000 damage, and that damage also doesn't apply to the explosive arrow, just to the bolt that's passing through. So while it would help you with like fire immunes that you're trying to kill, it wouldn't necessarily benefit you a whole lot for the explosion, which is dealing most of the damage on this build. I do have plus skill charms. Offensive charms aren't super expensive because most people want the combat charms. You don't have to get ones with life on it, obviously. These are pretty ridiculous. I got Torch, Annihilus, and then just some things to short my resistance and life a bit. So that's the basic gear. See that cycled on and off again? That's weird. I'm going to go ahead and switch that back. On change out, I have this ridiculous Breath of the Dying Colossus crossbow, and with the items I have on, and with level 20 fanaticism, I should be reaching the last breakpoint. You don't need this. What I was really doing here was my main attack here is going to be primarily fire damage and explosive arrow delivering that damage. And then on switch over, I've got it where I've got my high damage, physical damage bow with Fanta, and then I've got a Might Merc, with Infinity, Fortitude, kind of Thief. So if I run into fire immunes, I switch, which will then turn on my Fanaticism, giving my Merc way more damage, and then I can deal some decent physical damage with Breath of the Dying. I'm going to see how it works. You could really swap this out. I know this is a very, very expensive item. You could certainly use many other items. Faith wouldn't be hugely advantageous here because, I've got level 20 Fanaticism already. So that's where I'm at with gear. Primarily going to be using this. Occasionally may switch to this for fire immunes. Skills. So this isn't, hugely demanding in skill points. If I was using Dragon, I wouldn't max Holy Fire, but what I found is if I wore the Dragon armor, which I have in here as well, Dragon only was adding, I think it was like 500 fire damage. But a level 41 Holy Fire is adding about 3,000 fire damage to my attack, and keep in mind that all is being passed along on the Explosive Bolt. So I've got Holy Fire maxed, and that's really what I'm targeting here is the maximum plus skills that I can manage. You also want to max the synergies for it, Resist Fire and Salvation. I also pumped up Resist Lightning because I was considering using the Dream Helm, which I didn't. And then I put points all the way down to Redemption in case I need to get any mana, in case I want any extra movement speed. And then also I maxed Fanaticism, just so I have it for that switch and to give my Merc. You really have a lot of points to play with. The core build is 20 Holy Fire, 20 Resist Fire, 20 Salvation, 60 points, and this thing's ready to go. And then you can really play around from there. None of these combat skills are really going to benefit you much because you're primarily using your bow. I suppose you have enough points over that you could go like Blessed Hammer or try to do like a 1-point smite on a switch or something, but I feel like that defeats the point of the build if you'd then just be like a Blessed Hammer Paladin with kind of a weak secondary. But what I'm trying to show here is kind of interesting or out there builds that can do hell difficulty. Not necessarily competitively, but they can work. And I find this one pretty interesting. We're going to go through, start with the cow level. This build, I think, is very, very good at the cow level. Similarly to the bow enchantress build I did a little while ago. They're pretty comparable. I think the bow enchantress might get a little bit more damage from enchant, and from the plus damage from the masteries, but this is fairly comparable to that. So with that said, the gear here's pretty pricey, at least like Chains of Honor, the Bolkathos. Most of these items, the Chains of Honor is interchangeable. Just get a, Skin of the Viper Magi or something with plus skills is what you're looking for. The rings, you really want these or SOJs. There's not much else that's going to give you the plus skills to bump up your Holy Fire damage. Any plus skill amulet would be fine here. So like it's expensive, but it's not as ridiculous as some builds. I actually already have Demon Machine, Razortail, and several of the other items here online, so definitely may try this out down the road. But let's go ahead and see how this works. And you'll see that Holy Fire already triggering. And it that was weird. My Holy Fire wasn't on. See, there's something kind of buggy with the auras. I don't know if that's something new, but I've definitely noticed some oddities with auras in general. But basically what you want to do is get as many cows as you can together, because this benefits from the explosion and like how many they can hit in one go. And I should have put something with cannot be frozen on, of course, but can't put a Raven Frost on if I'm going for all the plus skills. And overall, I think, you know, it's comparable to that Bow Enchantress I was running. These are not going to be like the builds you start out the game with fresh. These aren't going to be necessarily like early builds. These do require some specific gear to make it work, and not necessarily expensive gear like Demon Machine. I don't think anyone generally uses it. I didn't even have time to switch weapons there for the fire immune. No one really uses Demon Machine. Razortail's not that expensive. So, like, it's not that hard of a build to put together. And there are alternative, you know, items you could run for some of these. Cuckoo Kashu, the bow brand has similar things, though it doesn't have the piercing on it. But the ranger in general isn't the most powerful class. Like, I was looking at different setups they have, and I was really looking for something that could deal with more than one target at a time. A lot of the ranger builds are built around, you know, guided arrow through items or things like that. I wanted something like, okay, if I wanted to run cows, how could I reasonably do that on a ranger? And this was kind of what I came up with. If I bump this up to player 8, I don't think it would be quite as effective. But because of the way it works, the more cows you can get, like, all locked together, generally the better it actually performs. So I think it would do reasonably well scaled up. Wish I could get more cows here. I should have tried this with that density mod. I did a video a while back with kind of a look at how to install mods. In particular, I did one that was a density mod that increased monster density by 40 times. And literally, it was just the entire screen from one end to the other was just covered in cows. It was pretty glorious. But even for a Lightning Fury, the Amazon I was running at the time, it was not easy. Like, look at that. That's pretty awesome. Just cows. Steaks for days. And I'm still playing around with this, deciding if it might be worth it to add Dream on here. It wouldn't help with the explosion damage, which I think, like on cows, is doing most of my damage. But it would be beneficial for, like, you know, let's say you were dealing with fewer targets or single targets. I think that extra 1,000 damage would be beneficial. Now, this build uses 0 mana. There is no skills that I'm running that use mana. That would be different if you ran like Enigma instead of COH, and then you would need mana for Enigma, of course, for teleport. But you really don't have to worry about mana steal for the most part. What you do have to worry about is your bolts. You know, you get 250 in a stack, which is generally enough. You know, if you're running this, you know, at least somewhat efficiently, to get most of the cows in a single run, or like a Baal run, or something like that. And that Enigma I don't think is super necessary either, because you've got the switch to deal with physical immunes. I just threw it on there just to, like, max out the damage on my mercenary. And I think I might have this mostly clear here. Might swap over and do, like, maybe Baal real quick and just see how it does on a boss run. But, you know, I'm say I'm fairly happy with the build. I think there might be a few things I could still optimize, and if you've got any thoughts, you know, let me know. Some things cross my mind, like, instead of plus skill charms, you could use plus fire damage charms. I think those max out at, like, what is it, 30 to 45 or something. Each of these charms is adding, it looks like about 150 damage. So 3 of those small charms would be pretty close to these offensive aura charms, but these charms also benefit my fanaticism on my switch. So I went with the plus skill charms. You know, I might try Brand, but I liked the 100% Pierce, or close to it, that you get with these two items. Brand loses that Pierce, though you'd be doing a lot more physical damage, and you'd be stealing more life, you know, in that situation. Let's see if I switch over to my Breath of the Dying. Doing about 5,000 physical damage between my Fanaticism, the Might Aura. So, like, my sheet damage is actually higher, but since it's single target, you know, you're taking down packs of enemies considerably slower. Well, I'm gonna jump. I think I'm pretty done with this cow run. I'm gonna go ahead and jump to maybe Baal real quick, and we'll see how it does in a Baal run. Okay, so we'll see how this goes. I am not running Enigma at the moment, so I gotta actually clear some stuff. But I do have pretty maxed resists right now. You know what I just noticed? I did that whole thing with no plus vitality. I forgot to... I got my stats to use my items, and I totally forgot to invest. So I did that with 1,400 less health than I should have had. So I guess that's fairly impressive that I did that cow run with literally using like 90 stat points instead of, you know, 500 and whatever. Yeah, so that's funny. I should probably... I don't even have anything, because all I'm doing is normal attack, and then Holy Fire on one side and Fanaticism on the other. But I wanted to put Vigor on here just so I can move a little quicker. Not afraid of you. It is a simple build in that, like, literally, you know, you're doing normal attack and shooting explosive bolts constantly. That's the whole enchilada. There's no mana you have to manage. The only thing you really manage are your bolts and making sure you have enough. If I was doing this for real, I would probably drop a couple of charms and keep bolts in my inventory. But I'm just trying to show off, like, optimal, you know, max damage. Right now I could put one more large charm if I drop the cube from my inventory, but I like to have at least a little bit of space in case something cool drops. I don't do like any damage when I don't have Holy Fire up with that weapon out. Yeah, it's just fun to like nuke enemies, like a single bolt, and as long as there's a couple guys lined up, they all die. And like sometimes a single bolt can, you know, can hit because it's 100% pierce. It can successfully kill, you know, a whole line of enemies. You got that physical immune, and physical and fire immune. We're just gonna say goodbye. You don't run into dual immunities too much, and physical immune, I believe, is like the least frequent immunity. So like, shouldn't be too big of a problem. Should have thrown Enigma on just to get down to him. But it's good to show, like, you know, what this is like before you get Enigma, because, to be honest, I don't have Enigma on Battle.net yet. It's probably going to be, like, a couple of weeks, maybe a month or more before I get that far along. Like, I feel like I'm getting closer to getting some of the really, really high-end gear, Enigma and Infinity and Grief. I think I'll have Grief by the time I get my Paladin through Hell difficulty. I just got him into Hell diff. I'll have a video up on kind of where he's at probably this weekend. I've been running I'm making a Zealot Smiter and just got to Hell difficulty, and I was playing cooperatively with a buddy of mine. He's on Necromancer. I'm on a Zealot Smiter, and like, we've exclusively been playing together. There's a bunch of fire immune, so we'll see. It kind of sucks because you're targeting like a single enemy. Without that explosion, yeah, it definitely takes longer. I might have to think about if it's worth having that switch on there. I mean, it works reasonably well. But yeah, my Paladin, I think I'm up to 60 or so. I just got into Hell difficulty. Probably going to level a little bit more in Nightmare and then move over to Hell. And then that's going to be my Uber runner. Probably in the next 2 weeks I'll be there. It took me a lot longer than I was expecting because it's a real life buddy of mine. We said, you know, we can't seem to catch up with each other, and like our characters are never at the same level or kind of doing the same thing. So we said, let's start characters we're only gonna play together, and that's what I did the entire run from normal through Nightmare. We exclusively played together, and the problem is we're both adults with jobs and kids and responsibilities, and so we ended up only playing like once a week, and then I went on a trip, and then he had some medical stuff going on, and yeah, so we finally got into Hell difficulty, and I think we'll play again. We've been playing Friday evenings. We'll probably play again Friday, and hopefully get through Hell difficulty. Yeah, this does pretty well on Baal and in player one difficulty. I think it probably won't scale super well in here because the density just isn't there. But like, that's actually maybe faster than my Orb Firewall Sorceress at dealing with some of these non-fire immune rounds. It's interesting. I'm not saying like this is anything amazing. It's a cool build. I love trying unorthodox things, and even if they're not completely successful, like I would say this is a win in my book. It's a fun build, and that's really what I'm going for. Like, I don't need every build to be meta defining and like change the way people play or anything. If it's fun, you know, like I'm happy. And actually, I think this would be a fun build. This or the Bow Enchantress would be a fun build to go through Nightmare on. Like, it may start to get a little weaker in Hell, but I think, like, in Nightmare, this would be such a fun build to play through. And again, more fire immunes, slowing me down a whole lot. I might have to rethink dealing with these immunities. I think part of it is my attack rating is just not there to reliably hit these guys. I probably need something with ignore target defense. Oh, man. The joys of not having enough inventory space to pick anything up. And I don't even know if I get enough on him. Alright. So, the fire immune guys definitely slow me down a little bit. I think I need to do a little bit of work on dealing with them. I don't know that this is necessarily gonna cut it. Brand actually has ignore target defense, though it doesn't have this much physical damage. I might need to look at, because I just don't have enough attack rating. Like, for Holy Fire, it always hits no matter what. So that explosion always triggers. The bolt doesn't always hit, so like if you want to get the on attack kind of effects, no, attack the other one, dummy. If you want to get the on attack effects, yeah, you're not going to be as successful without the attack rating. But actually, Demon Machine has, sorry, Breath of Dying has negative 25% defense, so you at least get some extra damage getting through. But I might have to look. I bet there's a bow out there that has ignore target defense. And yeah, I need something that gives me immune to freezing. Maybe throw in a Raven Frost in place of one of the Volcathos. My mercenary is in love with those tentacles. He's probably doing more damage on Baal than I am, actually. Alright. So, I think for cows and other like high density places, the build is pretty good. For Baal, I would say that was not completely successful. Merc died once, and it was kind of messy. And dealing with the fire immunes definitely could be better. I'm gonna have to kind of think around the, you know, the change out what to use. Or just, you know, rely on the mercenary and don't switch out. I feel like there's something better I could be doing there. If you got any thoughts on how to deal with them, the fire immunes, let me know. Because Infinity, even if you're using that, most fire immunes are too high for it to actually be effective. So that's not always going to be a solution. But overall, it's a fun build. I've got some of the core pieces here online, so I'm either going to do this or the Bow Enchantress online. I may lean Bow Enchantress just because I think enchant scales a little bit better, but I'm going to play around with the numbers and just kind of verify that. And then I might do that here in a couple weeks or a month after I get my Smite Paladin and my Trap Assassin up into Hell difficulty. Yeah. So if you got any comments, any thoughts, ways I could improve the build, if it's just a silly build, let me know. I'm definitely not saying that this is like a S-tier meta-defining build or anything, but if you got the core items for it, it's a fun build. And it is possible to kill in at least player 1 hell difficulty using it. Thank you for watching, everyone, and have a great night.